How's it going, guys? How are you doing? Welcome to a brand new video tutorial from Udemy. Today I'm going to cover an awesome thing that a lot of people actually have been excited about, and a lot of teams, a lot of applications actually, tender applications uses nowadays for creating their own front end. So we're going to talk about, or we're just going to go ahead and dive into POG template engine. So if you're not familiar with POG is just like a simple template engine that allows you to convert specific or POG-specific template code into a normal HTML document. And there are a lot of other template engines. There's so many of them. There's like Express based template engine. If you're familiar with Express, there's Python, but with Django, there's plethora of them. So the web actually is full of these kind of template engines, but it's really hard to find the right template engine easy for you to use from the side of, like, you know, dealing with a new thing, learning a new thing from scratch. And from the other side, actually, when you try to use POG on a real world application, does it have all of the features that you're gonna probably need? Does it have everything that you can, like, your application gonna require throughout the whole development process? So it's not gonna be super simple to pick up. That's why a lot of people use this POG. POG is super simple, clean, and minimal, and it provides a lot of awesome features that a lot of developers actually use. So a lot of teams you can probably find uses POG. The official website is pogjs.org, so you can just go there. It gets you into the, like, you can get just to the pretty much the getting started guide in here from the API section, and it shows you how you can get started with it. Since I'm just gonna today use an Express application. If you're not familiar with Express, is a framework that allows you to create servers on Nodejs. So that's what I'm gonna use today. For anything else, Python, I don't know, Ruby, Go, probably a lot of other languages, normal JavaScript in here, as it shows in here, you can install from npm. You can use POG for this, and it supports a lot of things actually. So it's not a problem when it comes to choosing POG for your specific framework or for a specific programming language. Therefore, I'm just going to use it for Express, as I've said. And to install POG, just run npm install POG. This is really necessary. You've got to install that first. For using it with a normal JavaScript, you can just require it, and you can just go ahead and compile it using POG compile file. Then you give it the specific template file. And when given a specific template file, you can play around with it. You can test it, and you can just convert it into an HTML file. So this is the whole thing about POG and how it actually works and how we actually integrate seamlessly into JavaScript and how you can use it. Now, how we can just go ahead and explain what is a template engine. So a template engine is basically specific syntax, like an HTML document, but it uses very specific syntax rather than using the ugly old HTML document syntax. So it gives you much more easier syntax to deal with, and it adds a feature for it. So let's say it adds for loops. You don't have for loops on an HTML documents. You only be able to, you know, structure your elements, structure your components on a specific web page, but you won't be able to use like for loops, if statements, conditional statements, create variables in that particular thing. You will be able to do tons of things like you're dealing with a real world programming language. Then what it does, you just provide it with it like an engine, which is the POG template engine. Then that specific engine gonna takes it and obviously just gonna go ahead and convert it and assign all the variables and does all of the logic behind the scenes on the specific engine. And what it does, it just converts it into an HTML document that the browser or your browser or the actual client's browser can understand and display on the actual web page. So this is how it works. Let's just go ahead and jump and enough talk about how it does and things, and you're already probably familiar with that. Here we've got a project. The project in here consists of like several parts. We have the distribution folder, which is just like a public folder that serves the static files. We have node modules for the modules installed, and we've got the SRC in here, which has the logic for application, which is empty for now. And we've got the app.js. For the app.js, what it does, it has a very basic server that runs on Express. So this server, it has just one single route. You already need to know about that. If you don't, just, you know, discard this, just go skip where the part we start using or talking about POG and specific syntax, but you don't need that. So just, you know, like for specific things and how to run POG. If you want to get that, it's in GitHub. You can just go ahead and find it in the link description below, clone it, and use it with no problems actually. So let's just go ahead and jump into the first thing, and we've got to create our template file. So this is an index.html, it's a normal index.html file, but we need to create a specific POG template file. So therefore, I'm just going to name it index, and the specific extension for a POG file is simply .pog. That simple. So yeah, it's not a really big deal. Now for POGs, there's nothing called, or you can't actually have a bracket. So in HTML, we would just do something like HTML, like, brackets, and we close the brackets, and we have got to close the actual tag when we finish with it. So we have an opening tag and a closing tag in here in order to put content inside of that. So you should already be familiar with HTML here in order to understand what I'm doing. In PAG, there's no such thing in here. So the first things first, you actually need to brackets at all. So you just put in HTML, and POG is smart enough to know that there's an HTML tag, and it doesn't really need to care about your brackets. So you don't really have to put them there. And the other thing, the cool thing that I love is just like, doesn't require from you to close the tag. You don't need to close the tag. So you just open the tag, and POG gonna just gonna find what tags are opened and closed and together. So you don't really need to close your tags. POG gonna know about that. So just open the tag with no brackets or something, and how you can just put elements inside of other elements. So in case, if we take a look at the index.html file in here, what it does, it has the HTML as the roots element in here, and all of the other elements, all of the other components are inside of this HTML tag. How we can put that is actually POG, or the POG template engine. The POG template specific syntax is based on indentation. So the more you indent in here, so when you put one single indentation using your tab key, you are actually telling it to put an element, a new element, or either text or something inside of the HTML container here. So we want to put first a head. So as you all know, head comes afterwards, and then we put another indentation in here. You can just put 2 spaces, but it's a little bit frustrating. Just put a tab, and there you go. So you've got a head. Inside of head, we're gonna put title. And inside of title, obviously, you're going to put some text. Now, how we can put text, since we don't have an opening and a closing tag, how we can put text inside of this specific element and tell it to get into the actual title. It's really simple. Just to do a space, do a tab, do whatever, then put whatever text we want there without quotations or something like this. So you don't really need to care about quotations. Put in here, for example, hello world, and this text is going to be interpolated or converted into an actual title. So this is the title's text. Very simple actually, and the title is going to be a child of the head, while the head is a child of the HTML element. We can just go back once, and we can create the body. Right now, the body is not a child of the head, while they are both siblings of the actual HTML elements in here, but the body as well is just like a child of the HTML. Simple enough. Let's just go ahead and try to do an H3 in here. I'm gonna say welcome to prod, whatever. We can just Control S this one, and as I've said, since I'm using Express, if you're following along with the GitHub repository, you're gonna find in there, so you probably know what I'm doing here. So you've got to first install POG, as we all did. So you can just go ahead and run npm install POG. This is really important thing to do. Run your server, whatever, and for the Express, we've got to tell it to use the specific POG view engine. So therefore, we've got to just go ahead and use, we can just go ahead and use up, and we say set. Then we can probably just set the property of view engine, and we tell it to use POG. Just that, what we're probably just gonna need to do. The other thing we got to do is just, set the actual views directory, because by default, it's gonna just go ahead and look for a views directory. While we don't have a views directory in here, we have a distribution directory that holds our templates in there. So therefore, what we've got to need to do is you change it from default views directory into your custom thing. So we're gonna use the path thing to refer to that, resolve it, because it needs a base path rather than a relative path. For a base path, we're gonna just go ahead and tell it to access the distribution folder, and there you go. So this is all you're gonna need to do. Now for rendering, if you're actually using JavaScript or something, you have specific rendering code you can find and getting started. But for now, since you are Express, someone is gonna have the handler of the GET request on the route in here. So what you want, response.render, what it does, it takes that, it goes and it finds in an index POG template file that's named actually index. You don't need the extension of .pog, so he's smart enough to know that it's a POG file. It looks for it like index, and he grabs it, renders it, converts it into an actual HTML document, then sends back the actual HTML document into the actual client, who firstly requested this URL. So simple as that. So you've got to just put this response to render and whatever file you've got a name of it with the template, and there you go. This is all you're gonna need to do. Now we need to just go ahead and access the local host in here. Let me just go ahead and quickly access that on Chrome. So we can just go ahead and put that there, and we should be able to get the actual server with no problems. You can take a look. The server is running. It's going to see hello world, and we get welcome to PAG. We have put it in here. So in H3, and we've got to put the hello world in the title. Well enough. So let's go ahead and jump into a little bit more complicated things about POG, because we're going to just go diving into POG. That everything you need to know about POG, since you're already a web developer HTML, but you just need to reference what is POG and how to use it. So you don't really need to waste that much of time learning a new thing. Just a quick look, quick reference, and there you go. So let's just go ahead and see a little bit different thing about POG, which are going to be attributes and interpolation. So attributes are super important. If you just take a look on any index or any HTML file there, you're going to probably the first thing notice that a lot of attributes. So an attribute, what I mean by an attribute is the thing that you put. There's a standard attribute, a custom attribute. You put the name of the attribute, then you put the value in here. Then this attribute is going to be read by the HTML or the DOM render of your browser, and renders whatever thing you put in there, take it as a settings or a configuration or specific things. So we've got to just cover that on the index or on pretty much the POG template engine specific syntax. So let's just go ahead and try here into the body. Remember that. Let me just go ahead and try to put a P. So for the P, you can put, this is a paragraph, for example, in here. So we can say this is a paragraph. This is text that belongs into P, but we want to put a specific ID to this specific paragraph text. So for the specific ID or for any attributes you put, you've got to open up a parentheses, and you've got to just open up the parentheses, because this is how you tell it that you want to use or you want to put an attribute. Let's say here we want to just an ID, so we can put an ID in here. We put it an equal sign as we normally do with a normal HTML attribute, and we put a quotation, we can put a static or a const ID thing, and we can put paragraph. So or paragraph dash ID for the ID. It's gonna be referenced normally. If you want to more or multiple attributes, you can put that using separate them using a comma. Then you put for example class, and we can put in here P or whatever P rend or something that's a class specifically gonna render up red thing. I've tried to save that really quickly in here and try to take a look on our thing, refresh it, and there we go. We've got, this is a paragraph. I've tried to look on expect and element using the dev tools in here to see the actual contents of this one and how it actually works. So we can take a look on the P. It has a class of a parent, and it has an ID of a paragraph dash ID. The same thing that we've put it, but it has a little bit how things actually comes first, and this is a little bit of a priority thing, but it doesn't really matter for you. What does really matter for you is how you put your attributes in and how you interpolate them. So it's pretty simple. Also, you've got to just see, you can put a style in here. For example, you want to have a custom style. You can open up the curly braces and you're dealing with an object, and you can put a style in here. For example, I'm gonna put, I don't know, color, and you can put the actual color value of this one, red. You can put background. You can put whatever in here, pretty much as a normal HTML, but it's a little bit of a different syntax, you're dealing with a JavaScript code. So yeah, as you can clearly see in here, it's pretty simple, pretty basic. So now for the interpolation, what I mean by interpolation is you will be able to use a normal JavaScript code and interpolate it into a real or your actual specific syntax or template syntax. So let's say we want to create a variable. You will be able to create a variable in other words. So if creating a variable, you do a variable or a var keyword, but POG engine won't be able to distinguish between if this is a variable, an actual variable, or this is normally as like an HTML tag or an HTML element. So how we can distinguish between that, or how we can tell it to distinguish between an HTML tag element and an actual variable declaration syntax. So we've got to use a dash before this. Like we need to prepend a dash before that to tell it that this is an actual, or we want to put a variable in there. So this is like a declaration of a variable. We just put that, and then we put the variable name in here. Let's say it's going to be like a name, and we can put Alex. Then we can use in here, this is a paragraph. I don't know, we can put like my name, and to include or interpolate this variable in there. So you've got to use a hashtag, then open up and close a curly braces. So you can clearly see it's coloring that, which means it's recognizing successfully. And we've got to put the variable name. So it tries to go ahead and look for that variable, grabs its contents, or grabs its value and put it in here and just like interpolate it into the actual paragraph with no problem. So this is how it actually works, and this is how you can interpolate things. If you try to save that, just take a look on this, refresh that really quick. There we go. We've got, this is a paragraph. My name is Alex. I just forgot about as, but yeah, you've got the point of how actually things are gonna be pretty much working, and how you can interpolate actual variables into your actual code. So it's not really complicated or something. It's super simple. You can as well use the paragraphs in an ID. Let's say you've got like another variable. I create a variable, my ID in here, and you can put in here p as an ID, and you can use that. Just reference it here. You don't really need to interpolate anything or something. So you've got to just, reference the variable name, and there you go. Everything gonna pretty much work for you, pretty much fine with no problems. So you don't really have to care that much about things or something like this, because it's smart enough to know that. Also, let's say we put it like an ID in here, the ID is gonna be automatically escaped, which means if you have put anything inside of that text quotations that has a tags or has an HTML specific tags, that tag is going to be like removed and replaced. So this is what you mean by escaping a characters, which means you're going to like make them safe. You can escape characters or prevent this escape default thing from the actual POC template engine by just including an exclamation mark before the actual equal sign, which means it's going to tell it do not escape this whatever variable we put in afterwards. It's not going to be escaped. Just like copy the contents of this one and put it in here. But in this case, let's say you've put it in here like a span variable or something like that, like this specific thing. If you try to put it this, you're gonna find that specific thing. But if you're not going to try to put that, let me just show you this. So you can just put a span in here, put hello, or to better like visualize things in here. Let me just go and copy this into the actual name and put P back in here so we can see it in the name in here, how it comes, so how he actually escapes the actual characters and how he removes the span. So if you can take a look in here, refresh that back one more time, there we go. So it's actually escaping that. What do you mean? You're still seeing this, but it's converting into a text instead of taking it as an actual HTML. But on the other hand, if we try to use an exclamation mark here instead of a hashtag, so which probably gonna tell it not to escape something or not to escape whatever variable we're gonna put between these curly braces. So we can go back in here. We can just use that. There we go. We've got the span. So we can take a look in here, respecting it. There we go. We've got the hello inside of the span. So it's converting the actual text that we put it in here, interpolate it into an actual span in here. So this is what I mean by escaping and escaping or not allowing actually escaping of HTML tags. And this could be like a lot of dangers with CSS tags and stuff like this. So yeah, it should be a little bit, you can read more about that so you can clearly notice what I mean by this. Yeah, this is actually what it was by interpolations and actual attributes and how to deal with them. Now we've got a couple of other things. Since we've created variables in here, those called actually scoped variables or template scoped variables. Let's say we've got something else that we need to receive some data from the outside of the template, then we like pass it from the outside to the actual template. Then inside of the template code, we can take this data and render it. So how we can actually do that? Let's say we've got some specific data in here. For example, it's going to be the URL of the currently active page on the actual client's browser. So we've got to get this page and pass into the actual templates. Then the template can render that. So we can do that. It's pretty simple. Let me just go and try in here to put a const variable in here. Going to be like URL. let's say I'm gonna tell it we are actually in the localhost /page, so this is gonna be the current URL we are on it. You're not going to use that same way, but this is a hard coded. So I'm just gonna put a URL variable in here and put the actual URL. So I can tell it which URL I'm using. There we go. So it takes an object, the server argument of after that comes after the actual template's name is an object with actually a URL in here and whatever data you want to pass into it. So let me just control S this one. Going back to the actual index.html. Let's say we're going to use it into here, and let me just get back into the hashtag tag in here. So everything gonna be working pretty much fine. Let me just put in here URL so you can clearly see what I'm doing, and trying to refresh that. As you can clearly see, we've got the URL passed from the actual JavaScript file in here into the template and gets rendered in here. So it works pretty much with no problem. So if you need data from the outside, you've got to pass it as an object in here, whatever data are going to be passed, and then available into the template you're rendering as a global scope. So this is how it works from a simple perspective. We can take a look on other things like now how you can use conditional statements and cases. So most of the times you're going to need to deal with like if statements, if else, yada yada yada, like conditional statements, and you've got to use them on your specific code. So let's say you've got into this specific thing. Let me just go and try to delete that, and I'm gonna put a variable in here, and your variable gonna be like checked. So it's gonna be a checked. It's gonna be a boolean variable. You can also put variables as a boolean. So I'm just gonna put it true, and I'm gonna use an if statement. So I'm gonna say if. So this is how you simply use it. You just put an if in here, and you can put if checked. So this is whatever variable you're gonna check, and we say if this is checked, so we're gonna just go and indent that. So you always imagine this, because there's no curly brace is gonna tell you to indent or something. It's curly braces free, so you've got to indent into it. Then you can use whatever thing in here. Let me just gonna try put if this is checked, I'm gonna put span with a style of, or let me just go and put a span in here. Or let me to visualize this a little bit. I'm gonna put an H3, and I'm gonna put this is okay. Okay, so if this checks, this is gonna tell us if this is okay. We can use an else statements, and we tell it otherwise. We can render an H2. I can say this is bad, and yeah. So we can just check the check. If it is okay, just render that. Otherwise, we render the other thing, and so on and so forth. So going back into here, taking a look, we guess this is okay. There we go. It gets into the first one. Try to take this back, reverse it, refresh again. We guess this is bad from the actual second choice. So as you can clearly see in here, you can use else or if else statements normally as you would normally do with no problems. There's other thing you might want to need to do is, let's say you have got an agent variable in here, and inside of that agent variable there is like something called a job. So as you can clearly see, I'm putting objects inside of the actual HTML or template file, so you can deal with this, or you can imagine this or visualize it in your head as a JavaScript code. So you can put normal JavaScript in here instead of, I don't mean all of the functions and stuff, but actual JavaScript syntax. You can use it right over here. So I'm gonna put a job, and I'm gonna put, like, for example, dev as a shortcut for web developers. I'm gonna check if checked. I'm gonna say if agent dot job. So if the agent object has a job property, you can enter that. Otherwise, if just this AND operator expression is not meaning anything, just gonna go inside of the else. You can use else if in here with no problems. Like, you can put if in here, you can put whatever condition you want. You can deal with it normally as you would do with any other programming language or JavaScript specifically. But this gonna just enter. I'm gonna say this is okay. I'm gonna enter agent.job. I'm gonna put an agent in here. So Control S this one, going back into here. Let me just try to refresh that. And as you can clearly see, it tells us that this is actually bad because it's not actually checking, because this is we're putting in true false. We can just try to turn this into true and see what happens. So we get this is okay, and we get web dev. So we extract everything from the object, and he enters the if statement, and everything is pretty much working fine. But on the other hand, if you try to use this, let me say, you've got a lot of other, for example, you've got a lot of if statements, so you've got a lot of other nested if statements inside of each other. You don't want to put that in your side of code. You can replace this using a switch statement. So if you're familiar with switch on JavaScript or something, there is some kind of familiar things with template engines like Pug, but they don't have the same syntax actually. So it's not called switch. In this case, on Pug template engine specific syntax, it's called cases. So you've got to use cases in this case. Let me just go and try remove that, put a choice up there. Let's say this is gonna be 0. I'm gonna put a case. So as I've told you, we're gonna put a case, put what variable we want a case into it. Then we can use when. So let's say when it's equals 1, we're gonna just use for example, you could put a P in here and we say like, nice choice or something. You can have another thing like a default. So if there is nothing like 1, it's not the other case, it's not the third case whatsoever, how many cases you have. So you're gonna refer to the default in here as a normal switch statement would do. And you can just probably like, put a span in here, no choice or something like this. And you could, find it properly. So you've got to indent this or put it in the next line, so to make sure that's the engine actually gonna read this correctly. And there you go. So this is all we're gonna need to do with the case, just normally a case with a choice, then using a when. You can also use break in here. Break, what does it tell it to do is whenever it reaches this, it finds this, not gonna just go through the other things. It just like breaks and gets out of the case. So you can use that, or you can just discard it because it's not really required, but you can use it. You still have the choice to use it. So this is how basically a case syntax might look like for you. So if you don't really have that much of, if you already know what switch statements looks like on a JavaScript code or any other programming language, you should be probably familiar with that with no problem. So let's just go ahead and try to remove that and get into a much more necessary thing, which are actually looking or dealing with pretty much for loops and while loops or iterations in general. So for loops on a JavaScript, they would look normally as like for I equals 0, whatever, I less than 5, then doing I plus plus. In this case on Pug, it doesn't actually, it doesn't have the same syntax. It's called in this case an each. So let's say here we've got a variable in here. I've got a frameworks list in here. So frameworks list is just gonna be like, for example, we're gonna put React, Angular, and the other thing I'm gonna put Vue.js. So we've got like the trending frameworks or trending front-end frameworks as React, Angular, and Vue.js. I'm gonna like loop through them and render each one of them. So I'm gonna use the each in syntax. So each item in frameworks. So you've got the second thing you need to supply is the actual list that you have. So each one of these, what you're gonna probably need to do, render an li or a list item inside of that. But before we're doing that, let's just go and try to put it inside a UL. So you should already be familiar with UL. So everything gonna be inside of UL and looping in each of them, then rendering each list item separately. So we can put that in there and we can put items. Let me just try to interpolate this like this item, or you can even use the same syntax in here, but you put like an equal sign in here and you set it to equals the actual item. This will work the same thing as interpolating using the curly braces without them, because here you've got one single variable to deal with, so it's not really a big deal and you still could be able to use that normally. Try to take a look in here, refresh that back. There we go, we've got that. But it's always better to just get rid of this if you don't really need the equal sign or something. In most cases, if you really need just to get the actual text of this, so you can get React, Angular, and Vue.js, and everything should pretty much work fine for you with no problems. On the other hand, if you wanted to get the actual index of the current item, you can get that too. Just put in a comment here and referencing the index in here, retrieving the index, and you can put, for example, index. We can reference the index, and we can put value in here. Refresh that, and it looks the same. So index 0, 1, 2 starts from 0 since it's array, and it gets the values normally with no problem. So this is how you can use a for loop on a POG template specific syntax, each and you can iterate whatever here. You can iterate even an array. You can put it in here like 1, 2, 5, 7 things in here and refresh that. It works pretty much fine. As you can clearly see here with no problems. We've got the other thing we might need to care, or you might probably need to care about, is the while loop. So let's say we've got a variable in here that is an I. So for loops or while loops, to better say, you should actually specifically specify the actual index of it by yourself explicitly. It's not an implicit thing or something. So we're going to use a while loop. It has the same syntax, the same name. So we can say while, there's no parentheses or something. It just, forgot about that. I'm going to put while I is less than 4. What you could probably do, just put a span or something like this. I'm going to put a strong in here. So for bold, and I'm going to put the actual I elements. And I'm going to put a plus plus. So what I mean by I plus plus in here, that I'm telling it to increase the actual value of the I. Once it reaches this, it tries to render that. I'm going to just, tell it to go ahead and renders that, like it gets the actual value of the I, the current index, but it adds it afterwards. I'm going to use an equal sign in here to directly assign this into it, rather than just using the actual syntax or something. I'm just going to put an equal sign instead of using the interpolation syntax like this, and everything should pretty much work fine. Let me just go and try that really quick. Refresh that. There we go. We've got 0, 1, 2, 3. It's less than 4, and it adds normally, and the loop works fine and with no problem. So easily can clearly see how things actually works. For comments in here, you might probably want to comment something, some code or something. You can use the normal comments, like putting double comments or even normal comments like this one. But comments actually works pretty much fine with no problem. So this is multi-line comments, and you can close the multi-line comments and work pretty much for them with no problem. So as you clearly see in here, it works pretty much fine with no problems. It just like does the job perfectly. For the comments, you can normally put in comments as you would do in a JavaScript code or whatever. So comments is not really a big deal, but you might need them on your actual code. Jumping back into something really important is how you can include a template inside of template. Let's say you've got a folder called, I don't know, something. It's gonna be like include, and inside of this folder we've got another file that's called head that actually has your head. Inside of the file, I'm gonna have the same thing. I totally forgot about adding the extension. I'm just gonna say head.pong, and inside of that, as obviously, I'm just gonna say this head has the head actual tag, and we have the title, and we can just say hello there. And the other thing you can probably use in here is, let's say you want to add a custom script from a CDN network, or from your just like your local server. So you want to add or reference this script using a script tag. So to use that, you can use the same thing, and you're just setting scripts, but you can't reference it. So you've got to use it like normally as a normal tag in here, just putting parentheses, and you can put src equals whatever script you want to reference. So since we don't have the scripts, you might want to use it, but in this case we don't. So we just simply put that. There we go. So here we can just go inside of the head, and here we can get rid of that, and we can use the include statement, and we tell it what to include. I'm going to tell it to include. Inside of the include, go into and grab the head.pong with no problem. So it should actually work without specifically just putting the include in here, putting which files you want to include, like the actual relative path to the current file you're currently in, but that doesn't really need any, like you don't require to put quotations, because this is going to work fine with no quotations. And trying to refresh that really quick, it does the job perfectly, like hello there, because we included it in here and we're removing it. So take a look in here, the head is the same, so which means it's including it perfectly. You can separate things into a footer, into a header, whatsoever, and it should pretty much work fine for you with no problems. The last but not least thing we're actually gonna cover is mixins. Mixins might or might not come in handy for you, but mixins are actually kind of functions on JavaScript. So you use mixins on POG specific template engine code or specific syntax. So first you put it like a mixins, in here, like just simply just like put the Mixins keyword at first, so or without an S in here, then you put the Mixin name like a function name. So just visualize this Mixins as a function in your head. I'm just gonna put it here. For example, I'm gonna put a pet, or let me just animal Mixins in here, and inside of that you put the actual definition of the actual Mixin thing. Let's say inside of that I'm gonna like render a list of it. I'm gonna render a lion, something like another li, like a bird, whatever. I'm just gonna render 2 or something. So now how we can call a Mixin, we go back into the actual body indentation. Everything works with indentation on the box specific syntax in here, and we can just call this using the normal function syntax you would deal with on a normal JavaScript code base. And you just do that. You can control S this one. So this is only the declaration. This is not going to be executed or something unless you're actually calling it. So as I told you, you can imagine this as a function. Try to refresh that really quick. We're actually getting animal and an animal tag, opening and closing tag. But this is like using a tag. Really sorry. You can just go ahead and for calling an actual Mixin, you've got to put the plus sign before it, and there we go. So since you don't have any arguments in here because it's a function, so it might need some requirements like additional arguments or attributes to be passed in. Since this has no arguments in here, we just put the plus sign before it to tell you that this is an actual Mixin needs to be executed. So we can go back in here, refresh that, and it should pretty much work for you. Fine with a lion and bird and everything. You can put in here like wherever. I don't know. You can put I don't know what I mean by like rank or something. You can just put a line before, you can put rank. So whatever you want to put. So let me just try and put that. An argument should be passed correctly without problems. You can put the arguments. I'm gonna say rank S or whatever video game you are actually playing into. Refreshing that, and there we go. We've got S before this, and we've got lion. So arguments actually getting from this into there with no problem. You can do plenty of things with Mixins. Not only just very simple examples. Many other things are doable using Mixins, and Mixins are super cool and super awesome. So yeah, you have plenty of things actually to do with a Mixin, or you possibly want to do with Mixins. So hopefully that was actually, guys, for this specific cool and fast video tutorial. Just want to do everything in really short amount of time. I don't want to waste a lot of times actually, because you can just go ahead and read the whole documentations on the actual official website of there, so bugjs.org, and you can access the language reference from this section and read everything that is just a little bit more complex than this video tutorial, obviously, because it has a lot of topics to cover and so on and so forth. So if you really want to dig deep into the book, you might want to go to this, but this video should be enough for you to get started and work and create your first template. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you all go, guys, and catch you all in the next video tutorial. So see you all, guys, in the next one.